So, my sister-in-law Bonnie, 26F, is getting married in a week and she just disinvited me from her wedding about 3 days ago. The reason for that is extremely petty, stupid, and selfish. It's because I'm pregnant, but I haven't even started showing yet and there is literally no chance that I'm gonna be able to steal her thunder, which is what she's afraid of. It stings even more because she had asked me to be a bridesmaid a couple of months ago when she first got engaged. Before that, we were not particularly close, and I was actually really surprised that she had asked me to be a bridesmaid for her. I have been with my husband for 5 years, married for 3, and before she got engaged, Bonnie had never put in an effort to build a relationship with me. She had mostly just been indifferent, so it wasn't like we didn't get along, but we certainly were not the best of friends, and when she asked me to be a bridesmaid along with her other friends, I had initially been skeptical, but then she had told me that she was aware of the fact that we hadn't been close, but now, she wanted to fix that and that's why she was asking me. It took a couple of minutes of convincing, but eventually, I agreed because I thought it was exciting. Over the last couple of months, things had been great with her and I thought that we were becoming really close friends. I was an active part of the wedding planning and she trusted me enough, or so it seemed. One of the major things that she had asked me to do as a bridesmaid was organize her bachelorette trip to Bali. My parents have a travel agency that I run alongside them, which is why she had that special request for me, and since, by then, we were getting along quite well, I agreed to do it for her. Usually, most travel agencies require you to pay a certain amount up front and the rest, you can pay after the trip. We have a similar policy, but just because Frankie is family, I agreed to organize the entire trip for her without any payment up front at her insistence. She had promised me that she would pay me back the entire amount after the wedding and would even get me to organize her honeymoon, which meant more business for us. All I had to do was pay out of pocket this one time, just for her. Of course, I was a little dicey about it at first because this business belongs to my parents as well, but then, we have been doing well, and because she was family, I could afford to cut her some slack. So not only was the entire trip for her and all the other bridesmaids organized completely by me, it was also paid for by me. We had great fun for one whole week and I funded that trip for 6 women all by myself, so I think that would be a big reason to be grateful to me, but I don't think Frankie seems to care. Because a couple of days after we came back from the trip, I started to feel really sick in the morning and ended up puking my guts out. I get really easily scared when it comes to my health, so my husband and I immediately decided to visit the doctor to find out if something was wrong with us because I was convinced that I had caught some sort of stomach bug while traveling. However, that day, we learned that I was just 6 weeks pregnant and what I was experiencing was just morning sickness, so there was nothing to worry about. My husband and I were obviously thrilled, and we immediately contacted our families to tell them about it. We only told our immediate families, our parents, and our siblings, and everyone seemed to be happy for us, with the exception of Frankie. When we told her, she seemed very subdued, and even when she was congratulating us, it did not feel genuine. That day itself, we did not think much of it because we had other things on our minds, but a few days after that, I ended up receiving a text from Frankie, saying that she had decided that it would be best to disinvite me from the wedding, given the circumstances, and that she hopes that I would not take offense at this. I was really shocked because barely a week had passed since we had come back from her bachelorette trip that I had organized and paid for, and according to me, there really wasn't any reason for her to be behaving like this. I tried to call her after that, but she did not answer, and even when I tried to text her, she did not respond. I even spoke to my husband about it and he tried to contact her as well, but she just kept ignoring us. I was obviously really upset about it because I really couldn't think of a reason that she would disinvite me to her wedding all of a sudden, after everything that happened in the past couple of months, the way we had bonded and whatever I had done for her. She continued to ignore us for a couple of days, but I kept trying to contact her, and 3 days ago, she finally answered one of my phone calls. She sounded really annoyed on the phone and told me that I needed to stop calling her so frequently, but I didn't care. I just wanted to know why she was doing this and acting so weird all of a sudden. Then, Frankie snapped at me and told me that the reason she did not want me at the wedding was that I had managed to get myself knocked up right around the time of her wedding, and as the bride, she did not want her pregnant sister-in-law stealing her thunder, and told me that it really wasn't that difficult to figure out. After saying that, she hung up on me, and I was just shocked that this was the real reason. Before that, when she had been ignoring me, it had occurred to me that she had disinvited me right after we had found out that I was pregnant, and the timing seemed a little too suspicious. But I had dismissed that as a reason because I really did not think that Frankie would be so petty and insecure. Of course, I was proved wrong later, and the way she had behaved with me on the phone call had really upset me. I also felt kind of used because of the whole situation with the trip, and after speaking to my husband about it, I decided that I was fine with not attending, and I would also ask her to return all the money that she owed me. Even my husband was really upset with how his sister was treating me, and he told me that he was also going to inform her that he would not be attending. So that day, after that phone call, he sent her a message saying that he would not be attending either because of the way she had behaved with me and that she needed to return all the money at the earliest. She replied to that message within an hour, saying that we were being unreasonable and that she had a perfectly valid reason not to want me at the wedding because I was pregnant and she just couldn't risk it. I just couldn't understand what she was so afraid of because I was not even showing, so nobody would be able to figure out that I was pregnant unless I told them myself. And we didn't want anybody finding out yet either, so we were obviously going to keep that information to ourselves, and even her parents, the only other people who knew about it, were not going to talk about it. Besides, she has to give us some credit. Of course we are raised well enough to know that we are not supposed to make announcements like these at somebody else's wedding, and I would never do that to anyone. So, if anything, it was she who was being unreasonable, and afterward, my husband got into a fierce argument with her over the phone when she called him up to convince him to attend the wedding because otherwise, it would raise a lot of questions. Ultimately, they ended that argument on a really bitter note, and my husband decided to stick to his decision of not attending the wedding because of how I had been treated, and he even told his parents about it, who didn't say anything because they wanted to stay out of it, and we respect that. But things got worse when Frankie decided to tell her friends about what had happened because now, they have also started to back out of the wedding. We had a group text with all the bridesmaids, and yesterday, I was removed from that group by Frankie. I'm assuming that people started asking questions after that, and Frankie must have told the truth because a couple of hours after I was removed, I started receiving messages from her friends, telling me that they were on my side here and that what Frankie was doing was really stupid and petty. I really appreciated the fact that her friends had reached out to me personally to tell me that they were on my side here, but I was also equally upset about the fact that she had decided to talk about my pregnancy to her friends without even consulting with me first. She knew for a fact that I wanted to keep my pregnancy private for a while, and if she had brought it up in the bridesmaids group, it meant that her cousin also knew that I was pregnant, since she was also a bridesmaid. Her cousin hadn't reached out to me, but her friends told me that she had explained the situation to them in a couple of voice notes that she had sent to the group, and everybody had heard those. I got really mad because she had no right to do that. My husband and I wanted to talk about the pregnancy and tell people about it when we were ready. Even if I made my peace with the fact that her friends knew about it, because it's not like they are connected to anyone that we know in the family or know any of our friends. Her cousin also knew, and she was a part of the family, so she could easily tell her parents about it, and then the entire family would slowly find out before we were ready to talk about it. I did speak to the cousin right after I found out about the voice notes, and I requested her not to tell anyone about the pregnancy, but by then, she had already told her parents. Thankfully, she promised us that she would convince her parents not to talk to anybody else about it. It's pretty exciting news for the family, if I'm being honest, since my husband is the oldest amongst all the cousins in his generation and he's really loved in the family. Anyway, we managed to bring that situation under control, but we were still very upset with what Frankie had done because she had been running her mouth when there was no need to do so. So right now, we are very upset with her, and I don't really feel like forgiving her. I know that she's getting married in a week and her friends have started to back out of the wedding. They are threatening not to attend if Frankie doesn't fix the situation with me, and that's why she has reached out to me to apologize and invite me to the wedding again, but I really don't feel like attending anymore now. It's not just what had happened and how she had behaved with me after she found out about the pregnancy, that was bad enough on its own. But what she did recently, by telling her bridesmaids about my pregnancy without my consent, that's what really ticked me off even more. And like I said, I also feel really used because I feel like so far, she was only being nice to me because she wanted me to organize the bachelorette trip for her, and because of his family, she could always pay me at her leisure, which is not something she would be able to do anywhere else. There are just a lot of things that are bothering me about her right now, and I really don't think that I'll be able to sit through her wedding or attend as a bridesmaid after everything that has happened. I wouldn't have an issue with my husband attending or even with her friends being there for her, but I personally wouldn't want to be there. The problem that has come up right now is that my husband doesn't want to attend without me, and her friends have made it very clear to her that they are not attending if I'm not going to be there because they believe that whatever Frankie said and done was unforgivable, especially considering everything that I had done for her so far, with the trip and everything. So she desperately needs me to be present at the wedding, and even my in-laws have contacted me to try and tell me that she is miserable and she really feels apologetic for everything, so they would be very grateful if I managed to forgive her and attend the wedding for their sake. And I really wish I could forgive her, but even if I did, I really wouldn't feel right attending her wedding. The most I can do for her is convince my husband and her friends to attend and be there for her, but so far, even that seems pretty impossible because my husband has his mind made up and has told me that he's not going to be attending any event where his wife isn't wanted, and it's so sweet of him that I can't even bring myself to argue with that. As for her friends, I have tried to text them and tell them that I would really want them to attend the wedding and do their bridesmaids' duties because whatever is happening between me and Frankie is between us, and I would hate for her wedding to be ruined because of me. but most of them have just been dodging that topic and have told me that they are just doing what they think is the right thing to do, and apparently, there are also other reasons apart from this, which is why they're not keen on attending the wedding. Right now, I'm just at a loss because the wedding is in a week and I truly don't know what to do. Ida for refusing to forgive my sister-in-law and attend her wedding even after she apologized for messing up. Edit. So I spoke to her friends about the other reasons that they had for not wanting to be there at the wedding, and apparently, she has changed a lot ever since she got engaged and has turned into a bit of a bridezilla. They were not really willing to bring it all up with me because they were not sure of how I would react, and they did not want to make it look like they were gossiping about her behind her back because of one fight, but they were just finding it very difficult to deal with her in the past couple of months because of her terrible behavior. A couple of her friends had known her since high school and one of them had known herself since college, and all of them agreed that there had been a significant change in her behavior in the recent past and she had been acting far more entitled than she used to be. Several times over the past couple of months, she had lost her temper with them. She had snapped at them for stupid things and had expected them to do everything for her without even thanking them. And I had also picked up on this a couple of times while we were on the bachelorette trip, and she had ended up being rude to some of her friends and even some of the staff at the hotel, but I did not think much of it. She had spared me that treatment, probably because I was paying for everything and she couldn't afford to make me mad, but looking back, I guess it was true. Apparently, the incident with me had just been the last straw because she had expected everyone to be on her side after she told them everything about the situation with me, and when they had tried to tell her that what she was doing was not right and she owed me an apology, she snapped at all of them again and told them that she was going to do whatever she wanted. That was the final nail in the coffin for most of them, and they realized that she had been treating them really badly and her behavior had become intolerable, to the point where they did not even want to be around her anymore. And after that last fight that they had because of the situation with me, they decided that they were not going to be attending the wedding, and I think it's pretty valid. Honestly, they put up with this kind of disrespectful behavior for a lot longer than I would have entertained, and at this point, I don't really blame them for wanting to back out of the wedding. I don't even think that I can help it. The most I can do is try to convince my husband at this point. Update 1. Hey, thank you so much for the response on my post. So, there are just 3 days to go before the wedding and I have decided that I'm not going to be attending. I have spoken to my in-laws about it as well, and I've told them that I really racked my brains for a reason to forgive her, but after everything that I have found out, I really don't feel like being around her. Especially after talking to her friends about her behavior, I realize that she has not just been treating me like this, she has been treating everybody badly. The only reason I was spared for the past couple of months was because she had been counting on me to organize and finance her bachelorette trip until she felt like paying me back. Probably because she didn't want to cough up all that money at once, since she was also going to have to think about the wedding expenses. And because she knew for a fact that she could convince me to cover her expenses until she could afford to pay me back. She had been treating me well, but now that the trip was done with, she did not feel the need to play nice with me anymore, and that explained the sudden change in her behavior. It was clear that she was acting like a total bridezilla, and I did not feel that it was necessary for me to put up with her behavior. My in-laws seemed disappointed, but they did not say anything, for which I am grateful. Of course, they are going to be upset about this because it's their daughter's wedding, and since I'm not going to forgive her, even my husband is not going to be attending, and that's not going to be a good look for the family. So I can totally understand why they are disappointed, but I'm really glad that they did not question my decision or try to make me the bad guy here and were understanding and respectful. However, Frankie did not take this as well as they did. When I reached out to her, and I told her that I would not be attending the wedding, and I really tried to convince my husband, but he doesn't want to attend either and there's nothing that I can do about it. She called me up and started screaming at me about how I was ruining everything for her and that I was the biggest attention seeker and that she knew for a fact that I was only doing this to get revenge on her. She said some really derogatory stuff to me, and usually, I'm not the kind of person to entertain this kind of behavior. I just cut them off, but this time I decided to hit back because I couldn't just let her get away with saying whatever she wanted to me. So I cursed back at her and I told her that all of this was her own fault. She had no right to be blaming me for any of it. I told her that if she had just been a decent and secure person, and not disinvited me from the wedding just because I was pregnant, none of this would be happening in the first place. I also called her out on the fact that she owed me a huge amount of money because I had funded the bachelorette trip, yet she had the audacity to behave this way with me. It just spoke volumes about how ungrateful and entitled she was. She tried to downplay the importance of that by saying that I was being stingy and tacky by bringing up the money over and over again, but honestly, it was a huge amount of money and I never would have funded the trip had she not been my family. I had done it as a special favor to her and I was going to remind her of it because the way she had been behaving with me required me to put her in her place. You don't bite the hand that feeds, I think everybody knows that. I told her that she was ungrateful and that I was right for not wanting to attend the wedding because, after the way she had been treating me and everybody else, she totally deserved this. So far, I had actually been trying to convince my husband to attend the wedding without me because I did not want to ruin it for her and her family, mostly for my in-laws because they were good people. But now, I was glad that my husband had decided not to attend because she was just a straight up terrible person and she had made her bed, so she now had to lie in it. After that, she started cursing at me again, but then I hung up because I had already said whatever I needed to say, and I did not see the point of carrying on the conversation anymore. Once that conversation was over, I called my husband, and I told him everything and he told me that I had done the right thing because under usual circumstances, even he would advise me to just ignore her, but at some point, you just reach a place where you just have to turn around and hit back because the other person needs to know that they cannot get away with everything. And I'm glad that I said whatever I said. I don't even care if she's getting married in a couple of days, she needed to hear this. Anyway, after this conversation, my husband and I know for sure that we will definitely not be attending the wedding, and I know it will raise a lot of awkward questions for his parents, but at least I'll have the satisfaction of knowing that I tried my best to keep the situation under control and it was really not my fault. Update 2. So, a very interesting update on the situation. I just got off a phone call with Frankie's maid of honor. She's one of Frankie's oldest friends, they have been together since middle school, and she was probably the only person who I hadn't spoken to so far. I've got to say, I wasn't expecting her to call me at any point, but today, I guess even she came to her senses and decided to do the right thing. She is not backing out of the wedding, she just called me to tell me that I had been right about Frankie using me for the trip. When she called me, she started off by telling me that it had been really difficult for her to make this decision because Frankie was her best friend, but given her recent behavior, even she couldn't deny that she had turned into a totally different person, and even though Frankie had always been a bit spoiled, this was just taking things to a whole new level. She told me that she was going to honor the commitment that she had made and was going to see the wedding through as the maid of honor, but after the wedding, even she planned on distancing herself from Frankie. But before that, she wanted me to know that she and Frankie had had a discussion about me several months ago, and Frankie had mentioned to her that I ran a travel agency with my parents, so it would be quite convenient for her to make me a bridesmaid and improve her relationship with me, so when the time comes, I would agree to organize and fund the bachelorette trip, and that way, she could take her own sweet time to pay me back, which is not something she would be able to do with other travel agents. So basically, I had been right about her, making me a bridesmaid, and trying to improve her relationship with me, just so that she would be able to take advantage of my position. It was a little disheartening to know that I had been right, but at this point, I'm not surprised. I thanked her for telling me the truth because I knew that Frankie would never have admitted to it, and after that, she hung up and requested me not to tell Frankie about the conversation that I had with her, which I'm going to keep a secret. Anyway, there's enough drama surrounding the wedding as it is, I don't think I need to add on to it anymore. I discussed that phone call with my husband and we think it's really sad that Frankie hasn't been able to hold on to any of her friends, and now, she's going to lose her oldest friend, just because of her own terrible behavior. It would be one thing if she was ready to acknowledge it and work on it, but I don't think she is. I think she actually believes that having a ring on her finger entitles her to everything in the world, and she can hurt and disrespect whoever she wants in the process. I don't think she had to ask that. She's not the only woman on the planet to get married, and planning a wedding might be stressful, but you don't get to take that out on all of your friends and well-wishers without facing the consequences. Anyway, she's going to learn that now, and she's gonna have to learn it the hard way. I wish her husband the best, honestly, since I have a feeling he's going to need it. Update 3. Hi, so Frankie got married 2 days ago and we did not attend. And as far as I know, neither did any of her friends whom she had disrespected over the past couple of months. Apparently, she had kicked all of them out of the bridesmaid group a night before the wedding, and that was that. The only two people who were there at the wedding were her best friend and her cousin. To be honest, her cousin was only there because her parents were going to be attending anyway and she did not want to create drama in the family, so she decided to attend and fulfill her bridesmaid duties. And we already knew that her best friend was going to be there as maid of honor, so that was not a surprise. But deep down, we all know the truth, that all these people are sick of her and that it's all her own fault. A lot of people did reach out to me and my husband and asked us why we had not attended the wedding, and we gave them the same explanation that our in-laws had come up with, that I was extremely sick, down with the stomach flu, and I needed somebody to stay with me and take care of me, and that's why neither of us attended. So in the end, I guess it worked out for all of us, probably not in the way that Frankie had expected, but well, she's a grown woman and she can handle the consequences of her own actions. I just decided to write about it now because a couple of hours ago, I received the money that she owed me, and now that we are even, I think it's time that we collectively move on from this episode. I don't think my husband and I want anything to do with her beyond this point, and I'm sure that she feels the same way about us as well. Now onwards, I'm just going to be focusing on the positives, like my pregnancy and how I'm going to be a mother in a couple of months. My husband and I are really excited and that's what I'm gonna stay focused on right now.